A couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And an autoimmune disease is something in which your immune system is effectively attacking your body in some way. And in order to treat this autoimmune disease, I was put on immunosuppressants. And what that does is that it suppresses your immune system so that it stops attacking your body in some way. And for the last few years, I have cycled through a bunch of different medication in order to try to treat this condition. And the thing I have is fairly rare and affects me in various different ways. But what the immunosuppressants have done is made me a lot less resilient to the different types of viruses that I can be exposed to throughout an everyday life, and have made me way more vulnerable to the types of things that a normal person in their 20s might expose themselves to, such as going to a crowded music venue or even just getting a few bad nights of sleep in a row. These things have stopped becoming ways in which I could stretch my body in order to have the types of experiences that you might want to have in your 20s, and have become stuff that are sort of critical to my ability to exist. And all of this has culminated in myself being a lot sicker more frequently and being a lot slower to recover when I do get sick. For example, in the last 4 weeks, I spent about 2.5 weeks lying in bed with a high fever, being very sick. Not all at once, but through a couple of different times. And every time it happens, it takes longer and longer to recover from. And there are some weird and maybe less talked about secondary effects that come from this immunocompromisation, I guess. And I guess I decided I wanted to talk about it. The first is obviously that you get sick a lot. And when you get sick, your whole life has to be put on pause. And for me, given I don't live with family, the other thing that happens is that I have to take care of myself, which is always fairly tough. One of the things that happens is that I end up ordering a lot of food. And so just keeping something as simple as a budget for the month can be completely derailed by getting sick so frequently. Sure, if you get sick once every couple of months and you treat yourself to some soup or whatever via ordering, that's fine. But if you're sick for weeks at a time and you have to order every meal, that can really start to add up. And that has been something that's been tough to sort of manage. I don't think I've really ordered food as a treat for the last few years. I think the only time I order anything is generally because I'm sick. The other thing that has really been difficult is brain fog. Brain fog is sort of like a sludge that you have to push through mentally, and sometimes it's really difficult to push through that sludge to try to get your brain to focus. And that is incredibly frustrating, because I think that a lot of the barriers that I've faced in my life have been one where determination and focus can really help in your ability to overcome those challenges. But with brain fog, it attacks the very center that allows you to generate discipline and focus. And as a result, you don't have those tools at your disposal when you're trying to recover from things, or when you're trying to operate feeling a little bit more sick than usual. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm sick right now. I'm just getting over an illness that took the last 10 to 12 days from me. And as a result, I haven't done much over that period of time. And because of that, I am incredibly frustrated by the fact that I am unable to continue to do the things that I want to do with my life. And I have missed a lot of the things that I was looking forward to over the last 15 15-ish days, and will do over the next few days, because I just can't risk messing up the recovery. Even though I'm well enough to sit in my chair and maybe make this video, I don't really have the cognitive ability to have a really full day of doing stuff that I'm really excited to do, because a lot of that takes a large amount of cognitive effort. And that's incredibly frustrating. It's hard to feel trapped inside of your own mind, unable to really articulate the thoughts that you want to articulate. And that's only one side of it, I think. The other is the physical limits. I feel as though every time I try to make some progress on my physical health, my fitness or strength or cardio, I am constantly facing the uphill battle of getting sick. And one of the things that this does is it really dampens your progress, because consistency is way more important than big heroics in the periods of time that you are well. Consistently trying to maintain a routine and incrementally improving on whatever physical training you are doing is the primary way that you improve. And while I feel like I had discovered this ideological commitment to consistency through the 100 days that I was posting, and also before that when I was trying to really create an environment for myself that encouraged consistency over big feats of effort, I find that the immunocompromisation, the autoimmune disease, and the ways that I'm not well have made it very hard for me to respect that consistency. And all of this has really made me think about whether or not I can do the stuff that I want to do with my life. Because when you are immunocompromised, you have to make tactical decisions on where your energy goes. And for me, I am always excited to go hard, to just do stuff and really live an incredibly full life. Travel, do big long days with big long hours doing stuff that I'm excited about, and trying to do the best that I can. But when making effort can cause you to get sick, it is hard to understand how much you can allow yourself to do, even if your ambitions want you to do more. And so sometimes I wonder whether or not my dreams are too big, and if my body will fail me before I can achieve the things that I want to achieve. It's a little bit of a tragic situation, I think, where your ability to dream doesn't limit you, and your determination to do stuff doesn't limit you. But the constraint on your ability to realize the ambitions and dreams of your life are constrained by your body. I think that in this experience of the last few years, I have really resonated with this idea, which is that healthy people have 1,000 problems and they have 1,000 worries. But when you're sick, you only really have one problem and one dream, which is to get better. And I also have an incredible appreciation for the amount of health that I am still blessed with, and wanting to make the most of the ability that I continue to have. Not only because I don't know how long I will continue to have this ability, but also because I know how great it is that I am able to do the stuff that I am able to do. But that doesn't take away from the fact that when you are constrained by your health, it doesn't suck. And the ability to do stuff is one of the greatest joys that I have, and that's it's difficult to reckon with the fact that your physical energy may not be enough to achieve the things that you want to achieve with your life. I think the other part of this is that when you are sick and it's been multiple days where you don't get better, there are moments where you don't know anymore whether or not you will get better. And it feels like Groundhog Day, and it feels like every day is repeating the same incredible misery of being incredibly sick. And sometimes days will blend into each other and you just don't know how long it's been. And that's pretty tough. I think that your ambitions not being limited by not knowing what you have to do and not knowing what you want to do, but actually being limited by the fact that you can't do stuff is an incredibly tough thing to reckon with, because I just don't enjoy the idea of saying, I can't do this. I would love to believe, and I continue to believe, that I need to just be able to figure out a way to be able to do it. And even though I have these constraints, getting sick frequently, I think that I will continue to try to figure out if there are ways for me to configure my life in such a way that means that I can continue to achieve the things that I would like to achieve. But it is frustrating that I no longer have the tool, which I have had for the majority of my life, if I'm honest, which is just grind it out, just push through and use the determination and willpower that you have to achieve the things that you want to achieve. But there are also these other effects that I think are incredibly demoralizing that being sick can have. And I think there are kind of two areas in which this is really evident. The first is at work. It is hard to work with someone who cannot be consistent or show up for commitments because they are at risk of being sick. And there are ways to mitigate that, but ultimately it will continue to be a difficult job to work with someone whose ability to work is inconsistent. And there are ways in which I could make my ability to work consistent by making my ability to get sick consistent as well. But that would ultimately mean that I would have to radically modify the type of life that I would have outside of work. And what I mean is that if I was to reduce the amount of if I was to reduce the risk of getting sick, I would have to really constrain my social life. I think that large crowds would be completely out of the picture. Gatherings where there are a lot of people would be completely out of the picture. And when I say a lot of people, I might even mean a large dinner or party. Because the risk of getting sick via a group thing is pretty high. And then the same with having any deviation from a consistent sleep schedule would also be out of the picture. And to me, this is a significantly diminished life. I really value having a large and rich social life that is full of a variety of people. And the prospect of having to make that trade is pretty tough. But that is not the only way that I think that this condition has affected my social life. When I do get sick, I have to cancel plans, and I become very bad at responding to messages. And that means that I have become an incredibly inconsistent friend. It takes a lot of energy for me to reply to messages when I am sick, and that is pretty frequently. And so many times I'm rescheduling events and things that I plan to go to, or cancelling last minute. And as a result, it can make it pretty tough to be my friend. And pretty tough to build friendships. I think that this is something that is one of the greatest disappointments when it comes to this condition. So, what am I going to do? That's, to me, right now, an open question. I have some strategies and have developed techniques to try to improve my ability to not get sick and to reduce the risk of getting sick for multiple days in a row or multiple weeks in a row. But sometimes you just can't help it. And all of the trade-offs that I have available to me are pretty rough. But that is the state of things. I was pretty surprised that I was able to continue to do the daily videos for as long as I was, because even when I was sick, I was not so sick that I wasn't able to make a video every single day. There were definitely periods in there that I was sick, and I was just finding the good slice of time in the day to make the video. But I was pretty surprised at how well I was able to do, especially with the travel halfway through the challenge. But now, for some reason, I think everything has come to a head, and I have been very sick for what has felt like a very long time.